Hey guys, welcome to this edition of Midwest Kidney Warriors with focus on the warrior. I guess today it's safe to say we're probably going to be focusing on something I've went through my whole life, which is Eagle-Barrett syndrome or Prune-Belly syndrome. We're going to learn about what actually Eagle-Barrett syndrome is, what conditions look like when you have Eagle-Barrett syndrome, what are some things that you go through with Eagle-Barrett syndrome, and some of the health effects on your life. I know with me, I'm 47 years old. I've lived with this my whole life. It's something I've dealt with, so I don't know anything different, I guess. So, a lot of people ask, how have you dealt with it? And I say, I don't know. I don't know anything different. But I do want to talk about this a little bit and kind of give people an idea because I know there's support groups out there for prune belly syndrome, and it's something that a lot of people aren't used to hearing about. It's a very, very rare thing. One in 40,000 are born with this. So when I was born with this in 1974, I didn't know anybody that had this condition. But I'm going to be bringing some graphics up that I'm going to be sharing, and this is going to be from the Cleveland Clinic. It was kind of an article that I think explains everything really, really good, um, and kind of gives a good breakdown on stuff on what exactly prune belly syndrome is. And so here this kind of explains that it's just a rare condition. It gets its name because of weak or absent abdominal wall muscles, and an infant's belly is all wrinkled. The best way I like to think of it is a prune. That they call it prune belly syndrome because, well, it looks like a prune when a baby's born. The other name for this is called Eagle-Barrett syndrome, which, again, if you think of what a baby eagle looks like when they got that big belly and little bitty body, that's kind of how a child looks when they're born with this. But the treatments for this just kind of depends on the condition and the severity of the condition. A lot of times, there's a lot of children that don't survive this. A lot do require surgeries, and most, like myself, have been able to lead fairly normal lives. I've had a lot of surgeries over my life. I think somewhere close to 60 or more, but a lot of reconstructions and things, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit more. But let me kind of go down a little bit about prune belly syndrome. Like I said earlier, it's a rare condition. It's present at birth. Prune belly syndrome has really three main features. So a baby's abdominal muscles are going to be weak or they're going to be absent, and as a result, the skin is going to be very wrinkled and look like a prune. uh, with a child that's a male, which this happens, I think, in like 90% of births. People with prune belly syndrome are 90% of the time are going to be boys, but their testicles fail to drop inside the body down into the scrotum. And there's problems with how the baby's urinary tract system works. So I've experienced this myself. I've had reconstruction on my urinary tract as an infant. I've got a scar that basically goes from about 4 inches above my belly button and all the way down. So it goes kind of down and then over like this. So it's down my stomach and then over. And that way they could open me completely up. And they had to run new urethras from my kidneys down to my bladder. And well, until that started working, I actually had, I think they called it nephrostomies in each of my kidneys in my back. So I was urinating in bags in my back when I was an infant. And the testicles has also been an issue that I've dealt with. I think I've had 4 or 5 of those surgeries up until 5th grade, where they had to pull those down. Actually, the right one got removed, but I kind of tend to walk left. No, just kidding. But I've got Leroy. I just don't have Robert anymore. So they took those out at a pretty young age, and or took one out at a fairly young age. But that's a typical surgery that's going to happen for people with Eagle-Barrett syndrome, where they're going to have their testicles brought from their stomach and brought down into the sac, or for reconstruction on the urinary tract. Those are two things I've gone through myself. It can also Prune-Belly syndrome can also affect your hearts and your lungs, your kidneys, your intestines, your skeletal system. It just depends on what happened while you were in your mother's stomach. So with me, luckily, I've not had heart issues or lung issues, um, very little intestinal issues. And then skeletal system, I've had no issues, but I have with my kidneys. Of course, I had kidney failure. Had my first transplant when I was 22 years old, and then I had another transplant in 2019, followed by another transplant in 2021. So I'm a three-time kidney recipient myself, and so I'm on my third kidney now. I'm doing great, and things are going really good. I've actually not had that for very long, only 4 months. But kidney disease is something that's pretty prevalent in people with Prune-Belly syndrome. So we'll go down here about who gets this. Like I was saying earlier, this happens in about one of every 30 to 40,000 babies. And of course, okay, here's where it says, and it mostly happens in boys, and that's going to be in about 95% of the cases for Prune-Belly syndrome. So, which is interesting to me, and the one in 40,000, because, like I said, when I was born with this, until there was internet, I didn't know of anybody else with Eagle-Barrett syndrome at all. Uh, so, for me to be a part of the Prune-Belly syndrome network, which I'm going to put their website and scroll that on the bottom here. It's a very good organization, prunebelly.org. So if you want to check those guys out, please check them out. They got a lot of good information on there too for you. But until I found out about that network, I didn't know of anybody else out there that had the same condition as me. So it's a very rare condition as well. But Prune-Belly syndrome is congenital, which means that you're born with it, and then no one knows what the cause of it is. Typically, they do think it is something that is hereditary. They can see it in siblings, in a brother and a sister. It could happen. For me, I don't know anyone in my family personally that's ever had Prune-Belly syndrome before. So I don't know about a grandfather or aunt or uncle or any cousins or nobody that I'm familiar with that's had this. But as you can see here, they've seen Prune-Belly syndrome where it says in siblings, which may mean it's genetic or it runs in the family. In addition, the condition is be seen in children with trisomy 18 and 21, which just means Down syndrome. That they've seen that in cases as well. So we'll talk a little bit about signs and symptoms here, which is pretty easy to recognize. But Prune-Belly syndrome has many signs. There's over 50. Symptoms can vary from baby to baby. Your healthcare provider is going to be able to make the diagnosis based on physical exams and tests. So here's some of the symptoms here is that you can have wrinkled or prune-like appearance of the abdominal wall. And then, of course, this is going to be due to the absence or poor development of your stomach muscles. You're going to have a large abdomen with loops of intestines that can be seen through the skin of the abdominal wall. The testicles that fail to go down into the scrotum. Urinary tract problems, including enlarged or blocked ureters, enlarged kidneys, enlarged bladder, and stomach and intestinal problems, heart structural problems, and musculoskeletal abnormalities, including scoliosis and club foot. Interesting enough, the club foot kind of pertains to me a little bit. I've always walked with my feet outward like this. I always thought it was because of, when I laid down and when I had those surgeries with the testicles brought down, I had to lay with my legs open, almost like if you lay a frog on its back, how its legs are going to be laid out. That's how I always laid, but evidently that was from my uh, Prune-Belly syndrome. So I had never realized that until later in life. So I just always assumed it was from surgeries. But interesting enough, that's a cause. And to this day, I am still most comfortable laying in that frog. I like to call it that frog-like position, with my legs cocked out like that. I also do have an enlarged bladder. When they did my kidney transplant, one of the things they talked about was self-catheterization, doing a fully cath because my bladder can hold about 600 milliliters of fluid, which is a liter or a half a liter. A liter is going to hold 1,000, so I'm pretty close to 1,000 milliliters. In fact, I know it goes bigger than that because after transplant, you have to measure your urine output, and there were times when I was urinating a liter of fluid. So I know my kidney can expand that much. But one of the things that caused my kidney failure was my enlarged bladder as well, because when I had reconstruction on my urinary tract, they had to put the ureters in. So I didn't, I had tubes that went from my my birth kidneys that went down to my bladder. But because my bladder was so enlarged, urine still backed up into those kidneys, and that's what actually caused them to fail. So anyone that does have a child with Eagle-Barrett syndrome, I think it's very important to find out about what that bladder structure is and ask the doctors if maybe that child needs to catheterize, or you as a parent teach that child how to catheterize so they can go to the restroom once or twice a day using the catheterization, the Foley catheterization, so that way they don't end up having kidney failure later in time, because urine can back up into that kidney and it can kill it because it can poison it. It's urine. It's not supposed to set in the kidney. It's supposed to drain. And so you can have issues with that. So some children may need to catheterize. That was something they didn't know for me at the time because, like I said, it was so kind of new back in the day. So I wasn't aware of those types of things that needed to be done. But I don't know if my ureters were blocked or not. That's a case that can happen a lot of times in this, as well as you can see under here. All I know is mine were replaced with tubing, and my kidneys were normal size. Actually, I just had the enlarged bladder that you know, caused urine to back up in them. And then my stomach is enlarged as well. Now, when I was younger, I was skinny and small, and so you didn't see it. But now that I'm 47 years old, I look like I have a pot belly. I do wear, and I'll stand up here, I do wear an abdominal binder, if you can see this at all. And that actually helps me to be more comfortable because I don't have any abdominal muscles holding uh, things together like your intestinal tract and things like that. So wearing an abdominal binder is actually comfortable to me, and I've worn this my whole life ever since I can remember. I've been wearing this even when I go swimming. I wear it. I do not wear it to bed. That's a question I get asked all the time. Do I wear it at night? No, I don't. At night I sleep on my stomach and I'm perfectly fine, or I'll sleep on my side and I'm perfectly fine. But I found that wearing this abdominal binder is comfortable to me. They do have a plastic surgery that they can do for people nowadays, where they can actually do an abdominoplasty to tighten in the stomach so there is more comfort. For me, that was something, again, I'd never known about, since I was born with this in a time when it wasn't as widely known. So I never had any type of reconstruction surgery or abdominoplasty, I guess you could say, on my abdominal area. So I've always just dealt with the large stomach and used a binder. I always call it my myrtle, like a girdle for a man, a myrtle, man girdle. So that's just how I've always referred to it. But anyways, let's go on here, and then I'll talk more about some of my situations. So how is Prune-Belly syndrome diagnosed? Well, it can often be found during the fetal ultrasound, where you're still pregnant, and your doctor can usually tell by looking at the baby after he's born that he has a Prune-Belly syndrome. So how did my mom know? She didn't know until I was born. They must not have known to look for it on an ultrasound, or didn't even think about it to look for an ultrasound. All I know is I was born in a little hospital here in Mahaska County, Iowa, Oskaloosa, Iowa. And the first thing the doctor says to my mom is, "Oh my God, I've never seen anything like this before." And my mom freaked out, wanting to know what was wrong with her baby, and they knocked her out. When she came to, she had been found out that I had been taken to the University of Iowa Hospital and Clinics, which is a specialized hospital in Iowa City, Iowa. And that's how my days went from birth. So they didn't know about it ahead of time. It was found out after I was taken taken from the hospital I was born, shipped to another hospital about an hour and a half from here, and then they looked into it and found out what my issues were. And then from there is when I had the exploratory surgeries, and they had seen the other issues with the urinary tract, and did the corrections from there. So okay, now how is Prune-Belly syndrome treated? So the treatment plan is going to be based on the unique needs. There's going to be a team of specialists. You'll have nephrologists and you'll have neurologists. You'll have a lot of people in there, and depending on the organs that are affected. So you might need pulmonary and different things like that. But anyways, they'll develop the treatment plan, and many factors are going to be included in this. So they'll look at the overall health of the baby, the age of the child, the extent to the medical conditions and the ability of the baby to tolerate and survive certain treatments, the child's outlook for the future, and then, of course, the parents' wishes. So for me, I had probably spent the first 3 years of my life in the hospital. There was times I had gone home and everything, but from what I know from my parents, there, I was in the hospital quite a bit, and because I had a lot of different issues and a lot of stuff I still don't even know. I've seen my medical files. All I know is they're long, they're big. I've never really cared to read them, just because, again, it's nothing that's affected me personally. I know that I've had corrective surgeries made to a lot of things on my body inside of there, mainly the urinary tract, my intestines, and and the bladder. So I know I've had those surgeries. What they actually were or what they did, I don't have a clue. Unfortunately, maybe that's wrong of me not to know. I've just never cared to know because I don't look at the negatives. All I do is look at positives, and I want to keep moving forward with this. But every child, again, is going to have the severity is going to be different from child to child. I know for me, in high school, well, I should say even grade school, I started wrestling. I wrestled from when I was in fourth grade all the way up until high school and a little bit beyond that. And not even that, I played football. I wore rib pads around my stomach, so if I ever got a high impact on my abdominal area, I had rib pads as some type of protection. Because, as you know, there's nothing protecting those organs. So if you get hit there, it can be very dangerous for internal bleeding and certain things like that. I played tennis. I played baseball. I went out for track and field. Uh, Prune-Belly syndrome didn't hold me back from doing anything that I ever wanted to do, except for going to the Marine Corps, which is one thing I desperately wanted to do, was go to the Marines, but I was not able to because of it. But when it came to any other sport or physical activity, it's never stopped me, and I've not allowed it to stop me. Um, so going on here about the treatments of it, the next paragraph here just says, in the mildest of cases, some babies with Prune-Belly syndrome may only need antibiotics to treat or prevent urinary tract infections. So I've had UTI several times growing up in my life. I don't know why it happens. I think it's because of that enlarged bladder, that you can get a lot of protein and yeast and things like that that can just build up. So I think that's kind of where a lot of that comes from. I'm not a doctor, so I can't say. I'm just giving my opinion. But most babies do, or even young children do, get a lot of urinary tract infections. And of course, what it says on here is most babies are going to need several surgeries to repair the abdominal wall and the genitals, to lower your boy's testicles into the scrotum and the bladder, the urinary tract problems, things like that with reconstruction that I've already talked about. Yeah, I've had all of that. I've had some stuff done to my abdominal wall on the inside. I've had to have, the testicles brought down. I had that done 4 or 5 times because they did keep going up even after they brought them down. And I did have reconstruction on the urinary tract as well. So what can I expect if my child is diagnosed with Prune-Belly syndrome? So the outlook for children with Prune-Belly syndrome depends on the severity of their condition. So approximately 40% of children with Prune-Belly syndrome will have normal kidney function despite other mild urinary tract problems, and can grow to have fairly normal lives. Some children with Prune-Belly syndrome have medical problems throughout life. About 30% of those will need a kidney transplant in their lifetime. People live with Prune-Belly syndrome need lifelong follow-up care to make sure there are no problems with their urinary system. So follow-up care also helps reduce the possibility of kidney damage. So let's go back to when I was 21 years old, and I was just working, and I was building scaffold, and I was kind of doing some training, and I was really sick. I was getting bloody noses. I was feeling like I was going to pass out. I was just sicker than heck. And I'd gone to a few different doctors that had told me I had the flu. It wasn't until I actually had gone to my family doctor where she drew some labs and checked my creatinine. Creatinine is going to be your kidney function. My creatinine was over 13, 1-3, which is very high. Normal creatinine needs to be under 1.3 or 1.2 is what my hospital likes. But in any case, mine was a 13. So immediately she called the University of Iowa hospitals and had me go visit them about this. I didn't have a doctor that was the most caring person. He told me, Shane, you're in kidney failure. You have 1 year to live if you don't get a transplant. That was the news that I had gotten at 21 years old, that I basically had a year to live if I didn't get a kidney, which was very scary to myself and to my mom to be told that by a doctor at the time. Uh, we had no idea that kidney damage was something from Eagle-Barrett syndrome, but because of that urine building up in my bladder and backing up into those kidneys, that's what caused them to go bad over time. And I was not catheterizing to help get rid of that, nor did we even think that that was something that needed to be done, because again, this was something new to us. So that, yeah, that was a difficult time to deal with those types of things. Now, luckily, my brother at the time, he was 25, came and he said, "Bro, you got my kidney whenever you need it." And then 5 months later, in September of 1997, I got a transplant, and his kidney ended up lasting me 23 years. So that was a huge blessing that my brother came forward with that. But again, the good part is 40% of children, like it says on here, are going to have normal kidney function despite the other mild urinary tract problems. If I could recommend anything to anybody that's watching this with Prune-Belly syndrome out there, do go get checked yearly. Get a creatinine and a BUN and an EGFR. Just write those down: creatinine, BUN, and EGFR. Creatinine is going to be your kidney function, your blood urine nitrate, which is showing how things are filtering, and then your EGFR lets you know where you are in the kidney scale from 1 to 5, where your kidneys are failing or not. 1's the best, of course. 5 means that you need dialysis and you need a transplant immediately. So look those up online as well and get to know those. I won't get into the kidney stuff too much, but just do your follow-ups. Make sure they're checking those every year and they're checking your kidney function. So infections in the urinary system, UTIs is another name for this. It says to call your child's healthcare provider with first signs of UTIs. UTIs are prevalent in Prune-Belly syndrome. So always make sure you're watching out for fevers and chills, feeling like they've got to go to the bathroom more than often and they don't go. That's one thing I always remember, is just that discomfort feeling in my bladder, like I always had to go and then I couldn't get anything out. Also a burning sensation when you go to the bathroom, pain or pressure in the lower back, some cloudy or dark urine. That's something that's always good to look for down in the toilet. And then sometimes you might have a pungent smell or a bad or strong smelling urine as well. Blood in the urine, rare, but it could be there. There's a wide range of possible expectations if your baby is born with Prune-Belly syndrome. Some babies do not survive, while others live relatively normal lives. The care plan does depend on the type of severity and body systems involved. Most patients need lifelong follow-up with their pediatrician, urologist, primary care provider, social worker, counselor, and specialist, including maternal fetal medicine specialist, nephrologist, pulmonary, and respiratory specialist. That is a lot to take in on your care team, but it's also critical and crucial. With me, I am all about my nephrologist and my person in urology. So your nephrologist is your kidney doctor. Urologist is going to deal more with urinary tract. So those are the two people that I keep close to. I don't really work with a social worker. I don't really work with a respiratory therapist or pulmonary, because I don't have heart issues. I don't have lung issues. Mine were mostly my urinary tract and my kidneys. So that's who I've always been involved with and following up. And then my family doctor. One of the things, I'll say this, when I was talking about my creatinine at 21, when they said I was 13, they had told me that based on that number, and I was, again, 21, that I was probably in kidney failure since I was about 16 or 17 years of age. I just did not realize it because I was in very good shape. I was a wrestler. I was a football player. I was a runner. I did a lot of things. I was a very, very active kid. And so even though my kidneys were failing, I never realized it. Nor did the doctors at the time ever think to look at my creatinine or anything of that matter, because of my Prune-Belly syndrome. Again, it wasn't something that was well known at the time. This was back in 1990, over what, 20, 30 years ago. So, Prune-Belly syndrome was still fairly new to the medical world. Now, there's all kinds of resources. I think Prune-Belly Syndrome Network got started back in, I think, 2000, maybe 2001 or 2005. I can't remember the first time that they had started getting the organization going back then. But it's come a long way since then, and there's a lot more studies being done for things, which is a blessing. But anyways, so that is about all I've got that I wanted to talk about on here. But the biggest things that I just want for people to take away from this. So there we go. Okay, so we had a question here about which binder do you recommend me, please? So actually, I go and I get mine from Amazon.com, and I will give me a second, and I can bring that up where I get that at. So it is I like the ones that have the three prongs. They're kind of stretchy on them, and they're just a lot more comfortable. So I will show this on the stream here. So here you can see what it is. It's just a binder lower waist support belt with compression. So this is what it looks like. It's got the three support things on there. Hopefully you can see that pretty good. But this is the one that I like. It goes from just underneath my chest all the way down to the bottom of my stomach. And of course you can get different sizes depending on what your waist size is. But this is the kind of binder that I like and what I find most comfortable for me. So I do hope that that helps. I get that from Amazon. It's only 19 bucks. And the reason I do it that way is because if you go to a medical supply store or something like that, they want to charge you like 30 or 40 bucks. Now, if you have insurance, you can get a prescription written from your doctor, and I have done that as well, and then you can get them for free. But now I just don't really waste the time with getting them because I'll buy 3 or 4 at a time, and they last me about a year and a half or so. So I'll wear a binder and change it out about every other day, unless I've been sweaty or anything like that. Then I'll change it daily, but otherwise I don't worry about it too much. But anyways, Fernando, I hope that kind of helps answer that question for you. If anybody else has any questions, you could put them on here after this video stops, or if you want, you can always get a hold of me on Facebook, or you can go to Midwest Kidney Warriors Facebook page, or you can go to the Focus on the Warrior page for this show, and you can always message me there as well. So I've always tried to share everything about what I go through. Even when I've gone through kidney failure, I've shared the hard times and the bad times. And I do this because I hope that it helps other people out there and that I can bless other people. So if anyone's got questions or anything whatsoever, please get a hold of me. I can't give you medical advice, but I can sure maybe help you, point you in the right direction, or kind of let you know some things that I've gone through of myself. So I do want to thank everyone for tuning in and watching today. And hopefully some of you found this kind of informational, and hopefully this helps some people out there. So I want to thank everyone again, and everyone have a great day. Take care, and God bless you all very much.